range, which includes obviously the top part of my range, which I was at. And so it doesn't give him that much information. And on a board like that, he really can't know what I've connected with. And so to me, by even putting in just a min raise on the button, by just putting in a min raise on the button, if I 3-bet a min raise instead of flatting, I'm defining my range at that point. Now, obviously, I can make a play. I could certainly make a play at the pot by doing that, but nonetheless, I mean, you have to at least assume, at least go based off the information you have in front of you. And at that point, had he raised on the button and I 3-betted, or I 3-bet, I'd be telling him, hey, look, I actually have a really good hand, and it would tell him that I'm pretty far ahead of his range at that point. And he, like I said, I don't mind the flat just to play the pot in position. But he definitely should have attacked that board way, way, way more than he did if he's going to limp on the button like that. This is not a very good... So it limps around. So we're going to call limp bet here. Here we're just going to put out a standard size C-bet. If we take it down, great. If we don't, we still have 2 overs and a backdoor, and so we get to one of our overs. Obviously, we don't like the gut shot, so we're just going to check. I don't expect to get 3 streets of value here. I could be ahead here. There's 2 overs on the board, it's a flush draw, but I'm just going to give it up. It turned out to be a pretty good thing. He nutted on the river, and the problem with hands like that is we're not often going to. So this is great. So we have top 2. So we're going to try to get some value out of this hand. I think making a value bet here is absolutely a great idea. A lot of people will freeze right there because they think that, all right, the flushes come in, even though it's a backdoor flush, but nonetheless people see 3 of 1 suit on the board. They automatically assume, they automatically assign the other person the flush, or they get really scared of the flush. He didn't do anything that would tell us he actually had the flush, or that he was chasing a flush. If he had picked up backdoor outs on the turn, we'd expect him to lead out, and he doesn't. So anyway, I think that even though there's 2 potential straights and a backdoor flush on the table, on the board once the river hits, I don't think that value betting there is really a thin value bet. I really don't. I think that it's I think that top 2 right there, a majority of the time has the other person dominated, and so by not putting out a value bet there, you're really missing out on chips. Obviously, there's no way I could have known I was going to river 2 pair, so otherwise I would have bet the turn and bet the river and got 3 streets of value. But just having top pair on that board, there's not really a whole lot of hands that I can get 3 streets of value out of on that board. So now this is an interesting dynamic. I obviously know comma after commas. Commas after commas. Normally, most people I would 3-bet here. I would actually put in a light 3-bet just to put some pressure on their stack and see if they're really willing to play for their stack or not. With him, I know that especially at these stages in the stack level, I know that he's a bit tighter. His range tends to tighten up on the button a little bit. So we're just going to fold. We could flat there. A lot of people flat there. I for one am not putting in the additional chips at this stage with 15 bigs. I want to protect my 15 bigs for a reason. I'm looking to protect my 15 bigs for something exactly like this. I jam 15 bigs here. I'm generally far ahead of his range, and even if I don't have his range crushed at that point, it's not likely he's going to want to flip with his stack. He has a pretty good stack at these stages, and so if he tends to call off right there, he's risking basically, he's risking 2/3 of his stack, which was basically cripples him. So unlucky for commas after commas. You run into aces. That doesn't always happen, especially when they hit a set on the river and you're drawing dead. So not a bad board. We catch more middle pair, backdoor. I wouldn't even call that a backdoor flush. I mean, we do have a backdoor flush, but it's not. I definitely wouldn't. I wouldn't feel too comfortable putting too many chips in the pot with a 6-high flush, especially if there's, if it's a 4 flush board. So it's an interesting lead. So it's a limp pot, and on a 10-6 ace board with 2 hearts, we get 2 callers. We're definitely folding. We're pretty much never ahead. So let's take a look and see what we got called with on our top 2, which was which hand? I believe that was this hand. Yes, this was this hand. And so this is perfect. It's exactly it, right? This is why we check back the ace. Obviously, if we had known he had a weak ace here, we would have loved to have bet the ace. Bet the turn. By checking back the turn, I think we actually missed out on value. And I'm a little surprised that he didn't lead the turn there once he picked up the ace, just to try to take control of the pot, and then. There's so many cards you can rep on the river there. In all honesty, with a board like this, if I pick up the ace, even knowing that the other person likely has an ace, there's so many scare cards in the river that I can definitely represent and try to take the pot down if I lead out and take control of the pot on the turn. So I think he actually misplayed this hand, and put yourself in my position. If he leads out on the turn, so I can pretty much assign him an ace at that point, potentially 3-4. I mean, there's really a lot of hands he can lead the turn with. Most notably being picking up a backdoor flush draw. And then once the flush completes on the river, he can really put us in a tough spot. He doesn't have to jam his whole stack, but he can definitely overbet the pot and put us in a really, really tough spot. It's going to be tough for us to call, even with top 2. With not knowing him, it would be tough for us to make the call. If it was, several other guys that I play with on a regular basis, there's definitely a shot that, that with certain player types we could make that call knowing they're capable of making that move. But without knowing him, we wouldn't really know if he's capable of turning his hand into a bluff with just top pair weak kicker. So. I doubt he's watching this stream, but if by some chance he comes across it, you may want to reconsider how you play hands like this. You definitely missed out on some value. Not so much value, but you missed out on taking down the pot. So I missed out on a ton of value, but we'll make a note of that. We'll review it in our hold'em manager when we do our hand history review, and we will try to plug that. So queen 9 off, we have 15 bigs. If we had similar stack sizes all the way around, we'd be more likely to actually open this. Mostly because we'd be opening under the gun, giving us a representation with a 15 big blind stack that we actually have a monster hand, thereby pretty much ensuring that most people, especially in a $33 tournament, you expect slightly bigger, slightly better play than you would in $11 or less. So we'd be representing some strength, and we would expect nobody to jam over the top with anything but more or less the top of our range, make it easier for us to fold. Although with 15 bigs, queen 9 suited, we'd have to run the math, but if we're getting jammed on by a similar stack size or even potentially a smaller stack size, we're probably not going to fold. We probably have enough equity to call off. 3-9 suited, we're just going to fold. Overpour has already proven to us that he's definitely an aggressive player. It makes him a little bit tougher to play against since he's a spaz. I don't know that he's a spaz, but he's certainly played that way to this point. So with knowing that, we know that it's we don't really want to play him out of position unless we think that unless we're playing with someone that tends to flop well, or obviously the top of our range. We do want to try to play as many pots as we can when we feel like we're ahead of his range, because I feel like he's going to make a lot of mistakes. But we'll find out as we go. Let's see what else we can reg up. I don't like playing only 3 tournaments. It's not really enough. So we'll jump into this turbo. I love turbos. Let's see. Queen 2 off, we're gonna fold. 3-8 off, we're gonna fold. Jack attack seems to be limping a bit. Some people like that strategy. I personally don't. This is actually a really good spot if we had more chips. So if we had closer to his stack size, so closer to 50K, this would be a great hand actually to 3-bet jam to a late position open like this. It definitely freezes the big blind, which so far he's shown us that he hasn't been too crazy. He's actually played pretty tag. Unfortunately, we don't really have enough chips at that point to do that with. So this is actually a great spot for us to wake up in. Ace King off with about 12 bigs. Let's see what this note says. Jam 23 big blinds. We go with Ace 7 suited. Okay, that's good for us. We obviously hope he opens here. For the fact that we have a note on him that shows that he's pretty wide. So this is actually interesting for him. There's not much he can do here. In all honesty, raising here is not really a great idea unless he has a monster, which kind of sucks for us if he does, but it's just the way it goes. So another hour before those start. This guy should never be folding. Yeah, so we ran to the top of his range and we flopped the case ace. Nice answer. I don't think we have a club. Oh shit, we did have a club. Wow, really, that sucks for him, man. Wow, that's terrible. In all honesty, look, it's a setup hand, right? There's nothing we can do. Neither one of us played that wrong. Neither one of us played that wrong, so we're not going to open here. So there's obviously an argument to be made that random hands, right? Not that I wouldn't love to have the 22K in my stack if this guy shoves. Queen Jack off, I don't really want to flip right this second, right? So I actually have a pretty good stack size right now, but I'm looking for more spots that I can apply pressure to stack sizes like 64K, 81K, 57K, 43K. With the stack size that I have, it's more often than I'm going to be able to apply some pressure to these guys and pick up pots uncontested than actually having to flip. Obviously, I'm not scared to flip. I don't need top of my range, so obviously right there, he definitely would have jammed. We would have lost. Not to be results oriented, obviously, but there's two different schools of thought, right? There's some guys that love to flip, have no problem flipping, and that's fine. I'm on the other side of the spectrum. I'm not scared to flip, and there's absolutely times that I'm getting it in, and I'll probably get it in a bit wider than what people are comfortable with. But there's a time and a place for it. I tend to try to put pressure on people. That's where